Hi, this is Cara Fontenot, the Fontenot Firm, and today we are continuing our series on wage theft, helping you to understand what it is that makes you an exempt versus a non-exempt. To understand wage theft, the first thing you have to understand as an employee is whether or not you are an exempt or a non-exempt. If you are an exempt, wage theft is not an issue for you. But if you are a non-exempt, you need to be on guard to determine whether or not your employer has paid you properly under the Fair Labor Standards Act, and also possibly under state law. So who's an exempt and who's a non-exempt? Well, who is an exempt is governed by the Department of Labor's interpretation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. The Fair Labor Standards Act is a law that explains to people and employers what they must do in terms of paying their employees. And there are a number of different parts of the Fair Labor Standards Act that explain different exemptions. But for right now, we're just going to talk about exempt versus non-exempt at the high level so that you can later dive into whether or not you qualify for one of the exemptions. So to qualify as an exempt employee, you must meet a $684 per week salary. If you get paid less than $684 per week, you will not be an exempt. Now, once you get paid more than $684 a week, it depends on what your job duties are about whether you are an exempt or non-exempt. Non-exempt people generally do not manage the work of other people. They don't manage the business or make decisions for a business. They usually don't work in sort of the learned professions, which would be doctors and lawyers. They usually don't work in tech, and except for maybe if they are make like an IT support person, they're usually not actors and actresses. And there are a lot of other smaller different exemptions that you can get based on specific disqualifiers. But those are the main ones where people will not be entitled to pay for overtime. Now, if you are entitled to pay for overtime, your employer must pay you for all the hours that you worked, no matter whether they authorized it or not. So if you came to work and things got busy and you ended up working through your lunch, your employer has to pay you for the time you got there until the time you clocked out. The employer is not allowed to dock your pay because you didn't get approval for it first, but they can discipline or terminate you if you fail to follow their rules. But they have to pay you for all the hours that you work, and they need to keep track of your time. And a lot of employers will say, just as a blanket, no, none of all of my employees are salary. Okay. And we don't pay overtime here. That is not a determination that your employer can make unilaterally. They have to follow the test set out by the Department of Labor. And if they don't, they can be liable to you and your coworkers for not paying you appropriately. So if you are not making $684 a week in salary, and you are not being paid for your overtime, you may have been the victim of wage theft. So it's important to figure out whether you fall in one of the exemption categories that would make it okay for your employer not to pay you overtime. That's something you probably want to look at. The Department of Labor has information about the different tests to determine if you are an exempt under the different exemptions. But that is also something that you can talk to a lawyer about and figure out whether or not you've been the victim of wage theft. This is Cara Fontenot, and if you have any other questions, you can always check out our YouTube channel, and you can also check us out on the web at carafontenot.com.